Welcome to the Ultimate Beginner's Guide for Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. In this guide, we'll go over everything you need to know, from the basics to combos, to even covering strategies in defense, neutral, and offense, with the goal to help you win more matches. Granblue is a 4-attack button game. You have a light, medium, heavy, and your unique attack. Most character stand light attacks are a very quick, non-committal button you can press. Usually this button is good just to kind of throw out to stuff someone running at you, or you can do it in like a block string like this. Your crouch light is usually a low, good mix-up tool if your character has an overhead. You'll be using both of these buttons when you need a really quick move. You also have a close version. In general, it's the character's fastest button, and it also leads into your auto combo. So auto combos can be started with light, medium, or heavy. Basically, you just tap the button 2 more times and you get an auto combo. These are all cancelable into specials. You will be using this a lot for combos. You can use it for pressure. The new addition to Rising, they added a follow-up, so you can do forward heavy or forward medium, and you can get like a canned mix-up. And the other good thing is that these are safe. You can't actually punish a character doing these. That being said, the main disadvantage of doing something like this is, 1, it doesn't lead to that much damage, but 2, it also has a gap, which means it can do an invincible reversal or something in between that. But of course, you could just do 2 attacks of the auto combo and then bait out a reversal. Anyway, so medium punch. Most characters' medium punches are really good low committal pokes that reach really far. Like you could do this in the fireball and be super low commitment, or you can do the medium into this move and get a knockdown from that, right? Generally, these are the pokes you're going to be wanting to use in neutral to whiff punch someone or to catch someone running at you or walking at you. And then you have your heavies. These are generally slower. Depends on the character. Some characters have really high committal heavies. Some characters, the main benefit of canceling into their heavies is that you have more blocks done, which means that you get additional combos. If you're going to be canceling into something that's a bit slower, that's where you're going to be wanting to use your heavy. Also, it does more damage too. So if you know you're going to get the combo, then this is going to do a lot. Now, crouch heavies, though, these are kind of like your universal anti-air. You can't anti-air, doing like an air-to-air. There's air throw and stuff. There's a lot of different things you can do, but the reason why you want to stick with 2 heavy is, 1, it does way more damage, and 2, it's air unblockable. So it's guaranteed, unlike the throw, which they can just tech. And if you get this, that did a lot of damage for an anti-air and all that corner carry too. So jumping is really risky in this game because 2 H's are very strong, and you can actually do these like quite late as well. And then your unique attack, this depends on the character. Grand's is just like an attack you can charge up. It's useful for combos, also for neutral because it goes really, really far and you get a lot of damage off of it. Characters have a lot of cool unique attacks. Zoe, for example, just charges her dragon meter, but it's unique to the character. And then every character has a down U, which is just a universal sweep. Sweeps in this game are pretty good. They're cancelable, which means that they're really safe, but they often don't have the best range, right? So if you want a way to like hit people walking back, this is your preferred method to do that. And some characters have like ridiculously long sweeps they can use as a poke. Again, this is just general rules of thumb. You also have access to these 4 buttons in the air. Light attacks are interesting in the air because they are active the whole time. Usually you're not using light attacks that often though, because not that much blocks done. It's harder to combo from. Medium attacks are okay. It all depends on the character's jump-ins. Gran would probably use this as an air-to-air, but for Zoe, for example, her jump medium is her cross-up. The main thing with Gran is his jump unique is really, really, really good because it can hit cross-up. It has a huge sword swing. Typically, with most characters, you have 1 or 2 jump normals that you're going to be using a lot more. Now, there's also 4 other buttons in the game. You have a dash button, block button, skill button, and you have a throw button. A couple of these can just be done without the macro. So for example, if I press light and U, I get a throw anyways. I still bind throw because it's just easier for me, but it's up to your preference on what you do there. Same thing with dash. You can hit forward, or you can hit the dash button and they do exactly the same thing. The skill button you also don't technically need, but you'd be kind of handicapping yourself if you don't. And the block button, there's certain things like, for example, cross-ups and certain techniques that you absolutely need the block button for. So let's say you're playing on like a 6-button controller, make sure you bind the block and skill, but I recommend you use all 4 macros like I do. Dashes are really good. Like, you don't get like a traditional Street Fighter dash. It's basically just a run. Out of this run, you can do 3 attacks, right? You can do a light. Almost every character has the same dash light. These are all plus on block. They all potentially lead into a combo if you're close enough. If they're crouching, they have more hit stun. So for example, this works, but if they're standing, this does not work. Even if they're standing though, you do get a stand light punch for most characters. So these are really, really good. You're going to be using them because they're plus, which means even if they block this, it's still your turn. Dash medium is either a low or an overhead. So Grand's is a low. This is really, really good for catching people walking back. Now Zoe's, for example, is an overhead, which this is mostly good as like a mix-up tool, right? So for example, Zoe can do something like this. Really, really cool stuff. Most characters dash heavies are like a really good combo starter, and then you can link a stand heavy after, and you can get a lot of damage for a pretty basic combo. Some characters like Zoe have a weird heavy where just as like this has armor and you also get a combo after. But the downside of these heavies is you just don't really want to throw them out too often. Only when you have like a really good read, you know it's guaranteed, because these are punchable on block. All right, so let's talk about the block button. You can block traditionally as well. Often I use a combination of both just because it's muscle memory. So the block button is very good in this game because it auto blocks cross-ups. In a lot of games you have to guess whether to block left or right, but in Granblue Fantasy Versus you can just hold the block button and it will block both left and right. Back and block is a spot dodge. This is really useful against fireballs. Blocking this, you take a little bit of chip, they get meter, but if you dodge, then you don't have to take the chip. And often if you dodge a fireball early enough, it's your turn, so you can like go into dash light pressure or something like that. Roll is a lot less useful. You can also use it against fireballs too, especially if it's going to be your advantage after. It's often a pretty good idea to roll. There's certain moves you can roll on reaction to punish, but generally you're not going to be using roll a lot. It's not invincible on startup, so you can't just like roll through things. So rolls do have some invincibility. It's like not that great because I don't recover in time. And the other downside of roll is that it loses to low attacks. Even like crouch medium is not like a true low, it still hits my roll, right? Rolls in general aren't that great. Mainly you use it to punish specific moves or to like get around fireballs. The skill button is really good. You can do special inputs two different ways. With traditional Street Fighter inputs where you do a quarter circle forward and a button, you could also do just the attack with a skill button. So each of them have a benefit, right? Doing technical input gives you 10% more damage when you're not in a combo. But the main benefit of just the one button fireball is you can do it a lot quicker. So instead of having to do the quarter circle forward, you can just throw the fireball. It means your reactions to certain things will be quicker. It means there's less opportunity to drop stuff. I personally recommend, as a beginner, always do the basic input for everything. And then when you start to get better at the game, there's certain situations where doing the actual input is more optimal. So every skill you have 3 different versions of. So you have a light, medium, and heavy attack. So the skill button automatically defaults to the light version. So if you want medium, you have to do medium in skill. If you want EX, you have to do heavy in skill. It's called EX, but you don't actually use meter. The main downside is the cooldown's a lot longer, right? So my cooldown there for fireball was like, what, like 6 seconds? As opposed to just doing a normal fireball where it recovers instantly, right? So you have to be really tactical with how you use them. Especially like as you get to like a higher level of Granblue, if someone doesn't have a cooldown for like a DP, for example, because they used it, that means, okay, I'm just gonna pressure them for free. So not having something available is a lot harsher than you might think. But at the same time, you still want to use EX moves just because they're really strong, right? So if there's like a move that I'm not really going to use much, I don't like to use the regular dive because the opponent blocks it and then it's their turn. So I like to use the EX dive a lot because even if I use up the cooldown, it's not that big of a deal because my regular versions aren't that great. We also have ultimate skills. So ultimate skills take 50% meter. Press U and the skill button to do them. They're basically supercharged version of your normal skills. Every character has like an ultimate reversal. These DPs are very fast. You can't like safe jab them. They lead into more damage and you get a hard knockdown, which means that you can go for a mix. As opposed to EX, where they can just like, it's hard to get a mix up after. You also have like a whiff punish tool. And then oftentimes you have a combo tool. I'd say the other most common kind is, I call them like a neutral skip ultimate skill. So some characters can like do ultimate skill that's like plus on block or like throws out a fireball that you can follow in behind. A general rule of thumb, skills are very good in this game. EX skills are really good. Ultimate skills are really good. Make sure you're using them. You don't want to be sitting on 100 meter, but at the same time, you don't want to like blow through your skills right when you get them. It's predictable, but also you're going to be lacking resource. So you have to be really tactical of when you choose to use the higher committal skills. You also have access to super. It's 100% meter. I use the skill button for this. You can choose how you do it because you can also do like a traditional super input, get that 10% extra damage, or you can press throw and skill at the same time, and you also get the same super. So when you're low health, you also have access to the super skybound art, and to do this, you do skill, throw, and unique attack. And oftentimes these do better damage and have different properties as well. All depends on the character. Zoe's, for example, this is really good for whiff punishing. It has full invincibility, whereas her regular super is just kind of good for like combos or for an actual reversal. All right, and I guess the last button we can talk about is throw. Throws are pretty straightforward. Think of them as very similar to Street Fighter or most 2D throws, where it's very hard or impossible to react to, but you can tech and be in an okay situation. The main difference is you cannot throw someone that's just mashing. So they do carry some kind of risk to them because mashing in this game is pretty good. So only go for them when you think your opponent's gonna sit still. In order to tech, you just press the grab button back. You can also tech with a jab. You'll get what's called like a late throw break. Doing this with a jab is safer. Whiffing this is a lot quicker than whiffing this. But the downside is if you tech here, you see how like Gran's on the ground for a little bit, so you can press your advantage. And you also take damage when you do this as well. All right, let's talk about the Bravery Point system. This move is Raging Strike. It costs one of the Bravery Points at the top of the screen. This move is really good for a few different reasons. One, it's just really good for like combos. Lets you convert things like that into really good damage. The other thing is that if they block this, they also lose a point. And then after they block, or even a hit, you can do a follow-up, which is the same input, and it's a guaranteed hit. Now, the only thing they can do is essentially like a guard reversal, which is the same input while you're blocking. But the downside of doing this is that you're actually down 2 diamonds, but they're only down 1. So if they do this again and I try the reversal, I actually can't because I need a bravery point to do it, so it becomes guaranteed. So going low on bravery points is a really bad idea. The only way you can really restore them is by doing a super. The main downside is that this is pretty slow, which means that you can dodge it on reaction and you get a free punish. Also, like in general, because they're so slow, you can just kind of mash it as well. So you have to really condition them in order to get the Raging Strike off. All right, so let's talk about strategy. Neutral often consists of what buttons are really good for your character and what skills are really good for your character that you can utilize well. So for example, Gran, Fireball is really good. You want to be using this Fireball. This medium Fireball can potentially absorb a Fireball from the opponent. And obviously you have your heavy Fireball as well. And other than that, like obviously you have some pretty decent pokes, just like run up dash attack, run up low. These can get you really, really far. I think boot as well is also a really good neutral move because if you space this right, it's safe, but if you get a counter hit, you get a combo. The other thing is anti-airs are really important. Jumping in general is not that great in this game. Do keep in mind there are ways to alter your jump arc. So for example, you can super jump hitting down up as opposed to just a regular jump, but you see how they kind of like go the same way, so it's like it's not that hard to anti-air. The only thing is like some characters have ways to stall their momentum in air. That becomes a little tricky, but most of the characters, jumping's not that great unless you expect like them not to react, or like you're trying to punish a fireball, then it becomes like a lot better, right? The other thing is, because fireballs are quite good, remember to spot dodge and work your way in, because you can like spot dodge and then like take your turn like that. All right, so in general, defense, blocking is really good. Most beginner players do not block enough. There's not like crazy mix up in this game. Against most characters, you have to worry about throw or shimmy, which means that if you block enough, they'll want to go for throws more. And then when they start throwing you, that means you can mash out, right? That's kind of the general like game plan. Also, if you have a DP, DPs are very good, so make sure you use them. Light DPs aren't invincible, by the way. You have to do medium or EX. Mediums are scary because they can be beaten pretty easily. Let's say like I'm just doing a jab on their knockdown. Now you see how that gets beat? So because they're kind of slow, you have to be a little careful. I typically do medium, but EX is better because you get better knockdown, more damage, that kind of thing. But if you guess wrong, then you don't have a DP for a while, and that's sad. The other technique you can do is delayed jab. It beats strike, it'll tech a throw. It's also pretty fast. Basically, you're just holding down back and you're not doing it immediately. You're just waiting a little bit. If you ever get hit on defense, whenever you get knocked down, there's like what's called a soft knockdown, which means that you see how Gran just kind of laid there, and you can choose not to get up. But generally in fighting games, getting up quicker is better because you don't let the opponent get to you and they get less time to set up as well. So in order to do this, either hold back or down and press an attack button. Make sure you're using both depending on the character and the situation. But in general, if you want to just autopilot something, just always back tech is usually your best go-to in most fighting games, including Granblue. And in offense, obviously you need to do throw. I find at beginner levels that people just mash a lot, so you don't need to throw as much. You can just kind of like do attacks. Like one of the main training tools you should use when you're starting out is learn to beat mashing. So you can do this counter on block, do a stand late attack, and then do like anything. So like, as you can see, this beats mash, right? And you see this is losing the mash, but there's ways to beat this. Whether it's with the overhead, whether it's canceling in the EX Fireball. There's a lot of different ways to beat mash in this game, but make sure you know how to beat it, right? Same thing when people wake up and start mashing. And the other important thing is to learn how they tech, because there's two different types of tech. So if they're teching like that, that means they are using throw to tech, which means that you can start to do things like shimmy them. There's a few different ways to shimmy. Some characters have auto shimmy moves, but try to figure out what they're doing on defense and then know what your counter is on offense to beat it. Anyways, guys, if you made it this far and you found the video helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing because it'll help us make more videos like this. You know, I think Granblue's game's sick. I think it has a lot of potential and I want to help people get into it and I want to be making more content for this. So consider following the channel and showing some support if you can. And as always, guys, appreciate you watching. Take care, y'all, and peace.